What if women walked around and were actually honest about what they were aroused by? You know, I like it a lot when guys spank my ass and say, yeah, give it to me, daddy. Would we take them seriously?
Myron Gaines.
Whoa, that's fucked up, Myron. That's misogynistic.
The world's most controversial podcaster.
Women only respect men that behave like they're superior to them and are superior to them. And a lot of the times that's, I call the shots, you don't really have a say in this.
I believe there's something special with having one girlfriend and one partner that you go and build your life with.
Shut up. No, you don't. The man always has to have leverage over the girl. That's how you maintain attraction with women.
And if a girl cheats on a guy,
it's the man's fault. Women don't like cheat on accident because at that point they've lost respect for you.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Really asked me that. Okay, I had it lined up right on his head. My Glock 17, it was right there on his fucking head. He goes like this, and I remember screaming at him, "Don't fucking do it! I'll shoot you! Don't fucking do it!" I want guys to be in a position where they live on their terms versus someone else's terms. Oh, happy wife, happy life. No, happy king, happy kingdom. I don't want them to have that kingdom. No.
So for the few viewers that obviously don't know what you do, can you explain quickly what your podcast is all about and what your message is to young guys?
It's basically for guys to get out there and become the best version of themselves in an ever-changing world and adapt to the new normal. You know, the days of being an average guy and being able to kind of just coast, right, and make enough money for yourself and, you know, a wife and kids, you have to be exceptional nowadays. Women have more choice than ever had before. We have guys with the lowest testosterone ever. We got obesity going crazy all over the Western countries. So, and masculinity, I you know, from what I see has been slowly deteriorating. And I need guys to get back into, you know, what made us men in the first place, to understand that, hey, you're the man, you're responsible, but at the same time, don't let these feminists trick you and tell you that you don't have authority. So, we tell, you know, and for us to be able to do this and make it happen, we can't just tell them, be a man. Like, no, you know, this isn't fucking Mulan. We got to tell them, hey, go to the gym, make money, self-care, you know, taking care of yourself, working on your aesthetics. You have to become the complete package. And it's not necessarily so you can get girls, but it's so that you can build yourself up to a certain level where you have the option of the girls and you don't have to tolerate the bullshit that inevitably comes with the girls. I want guys to be in a position where they're in the driver's seat, they're picking the girls that come to them, and they're, you know, maximizing their sexual market value, avoiding depression, avoiding being sad, accomplishing something, and just being the best version of themselves. And for us to do that, they have to be competent in many different areas.
See, what you've just described there, to me and probably to anyone really in the world, sounds pretty good. I struggle to see the negatives in that.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm sure you do get a lot of pushback with what you do.
A lot.
So where does that pushback come from? What are the reasons people give to why they might not like you and the show in general?
Well, we live in a very woke, politically correct society. And unfortunately, the things that make a man attractive and successful are not necessarily politically correct. So if I tell a guy, hey, man, you probably shouldn't be sitting here sweating this girl and putting her on a pedestal and giving her flowers on her first date. Well, this goes against the grain of what modern society tells guys to do with women. Be a nice guy, you know, be emotional, be empathetic, all this BS. That's not really arousing. Though that might be attractive, right? That assumes that the woman is already aroused by you. But as a guy, you have to have certain traits and behaviors and mannerisms that might not necessarily be politically correct, that would be deem you as the asshole. We also live in a society where we tell people it's completely okay to be fat and be incompetent. You know, love your body. Yeah, you know, you're special, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's
so
okay.
Why do you hate fat people?
Why do I hate fat people? Well, because it is an outward manifestation of laziness. Whenever I see someone that's overweight or fat, I know in the back of their mind, like, they have zero discipline. They don't have a proper lifestyle set in place. They can't see things through. And their body is nothing more than their effort shown in the physical. I was a Division I athlete in college. I've never done a drug in my life, never smoked weed, never did any of these hard drugs. I worked in law enforcement. I've had a very disciplined upbringing, especially throughout my teen and young adult years, you know, all the way up until now, 33. And I look at it like that was really tough, you know, to be waking up every morning at 4 or 5 in the morning training. I was rowing in college and going to the gym. And I'm like, dude, if you can't even go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week to maintain your figure, like, what are you doing? You can't control the food that goes in your mouth. What the fuck is wrong with you? But, you know, we live in a very gluttonous society nowadays, and there's no ramifications for it. We tell people to love their body, and this fat acceptance crap, it's bullshit. If I was prime minister, I'd have them extinct in 30 days. Fucking everyone, 99% tax. You know what I mean? You can't, you literally, I'm going to put them in fat concentration camps, right? Where they're losing the weight. They got to eat healthy food. They got to exercise and have a healthy diet. And then bam, I'll have, I'll bring down the fucking obesity problem within a few months.
So why do you think they're not doing that? What's the agenda? Why have they decided to put all these fat people on pedestals?
A multitude of reasons. I would say the biggest reason is because, shockingly enough, a lot of women are fat, and we don't tend to hold women accountable for poor decisions in Western society. So since a lot of women are fat, we're like, oh no, it's okay. Love your curves and you're special. And, you deserve the best no matter how you behave. And, it's just...
Is that coming from girls, or is that coming from simps that just want to accept anything they can get?
It's a two-pronged problem. So first, the feminists and, the liberals say, hey, it's okay, right? And then, obviously with women, they're like, it's okay, you're special, blah, 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 right? And then the simps on top of that go in and validate their poor decisions of them being a beluga whale. So, it's just crazy, dude. It's just crazy. And then even on the male side, you can make the argument, with Leonardo DiCaprio. I remember a couple years back, they said, oh yeah, dad bod is so attractive. And I was like, well, he's Leonardo DiCaprio. He was in fucking Titanic. Of course you guys are going to say that. But if it was like some regular dude and he had a dad bod, they'd be like, ew, no thanks, So it's very misleading. And that's another thing too, why guys need to really wake up. Like, you really think women like fucking dad bods, dude? No, it's because it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Status means everything. If your status is high enough, you're able to override certain detriments to your look because of your status alone.
And perhaps women kind of say, I like dad bods because, I don't know, is it in a way, is it less intimidating for them?
The girl probably thinks the guy isn't going to cheat.
What I've realized is that like women are very reluctant to admit what arouses them. So like there's two different things, right? There's like attraction and then there's arousal. So like attraction is like being romantic, being nice, being empathetic, being a good listener, all this shit, right? And then there's being arousing, right? Which is like, you're attractive, you're physically attractive, you're dominant, you can put her in her place whenever you need to. You're able to, facilitate these things even in the bedroom, whatever it may be. And the thing is that women tend to always omit the arousal portion, but they'll tell you the attractive portion. And if you have the attractive portion without the arousal portion, well, you might get the girl, but you might just be a guy that is like, what I call a placeholder boyfriend. Like maybe you make money, but you're lame and she's with you for the money. Or maybe you're, very physically attractive, but you don't have the killer instinct to be to like actually be dominant, right? She's running the show. So what I've noticed is that women are very reluctant to say what actually arouses them because it makes them look bad. If a girl walked around, think about it. Let's go into an imaginary scenario, right? What if women walked around and were actually honest about what they were aroused by? Yeah, I like it a lot when guys slap me and tell me I'm a dumb whore. I like it a lot when guys spank my ass and say, yeah, give it to me, daddy. Would we take them seriously? The answer is no. So they would never admit that, but that's what they like, so I was reading some crazy stat somewhere that like a large percentage of women like have fantasies, not saying that that's ever acceptable, but women are attracted to certain carnal traits in men that they're never going to admit because they don't want to be looked at as hoes by society.
Yeah, I was once dating a girl and she said, I want you to run after me around the house and pretend that it's a rap situation.
Yeah. Dude. I know a guy, crazy fucking story. I know a guy, he runs a business, right? Girl signs a waiver, right? Pays him the money. He breaks into her house like a year later when she doesn't know when it's going to happen, by the way. And he fucking kidnaps her and throws her in a trunk and gives her the fantasy.
No way.
Yes, dude. Yes, I know a guy that does that shit. It's fucking wild. Like, but it makes sense. If you look at the most popular book for women, one of them is 50 Shades of Grey. Mm-hmm. What does that book show? Well, the man has all the attractive and arousing attributes. He's tall, good looking, has money, has this, able to provide security, dominant, assertive, has a weird fetish with, whips and chains and shit like that. So he checks off all the boxes on, the politically correct side and on the not so politically correct, less flattering sides of female nature. And that's why that book did so well with women, because they get aroused in their head, but they can't admit this shit because we're going to lose respect for them. And remember, feminists worked 60, 70 years really hard to be equal to us, even though they're not. But they worked really hard to try to get, create the illusion that they are and they should be getting all the same, rights and privileges that men do. But that's why they're not honest about that.
Is buying flowers on a first date such a bad idea? Because I know last time we had this discussion and I said, I bought my girlfriend flowers and her mum flowers on the first date. And she's sitting behind the camera now on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So yeah, obviously that worked out for me. Mm-hmm. Is it a rule that you have to stick to? You can't do flowers if you set up the frame in a certain way that's okay?
It really depends. So like there's always exceptions to the rule for everything, of course. But in general, I would say if you're in an English-speaking first world country where feminism has reared its ugly head, you probably don't want to give a girl flowers off rip because you don't want to come off a certain way. Like some women might really appreciate it, right? If she's already attracted and aroused by you, she'll really appreciate it. But if you kind of got the number by the skin of your teeth, or she's kind of like, lukewarm with you, then that might actually make you lose attraction, or she might see you as a friend. So it really depends on the situation. But what I tell guys is the best practice is don't pedestalize her from the beginning. Don't give her flowers, because a lot of women, quite frankly, don't know how to act or behave when they get good treatment. Good girls, if you treat them well, a lot of the times they'll reciprocate positively. But, let's be honest here, a lot of girls are fucking sluts. So if you give them flowers off rip, they're like, whoa, what is this? A guy's treating me like a human? This is weird. And then they don't know how to act, right? Especially the really promiscuous girls. Girls that come from sex work, strippers, girls that have like trauma, like they don't know how to react when a guy is nice to them. They end up fucking these guys over a lot of times because they have such a negative concept of men in their head, because, and this is so common with like sex workers we brought on the show or whatever, right? Is it every sex worker? No. But what I've realized is, since they trade their sexuality for money, right? Whether it's OnlyFans, stripping, etc., they see a very dark side of male nature, right? They see the pervy, weird, creep individual, right? And they start to kind of grow disdain for men, rightfully so. A lot of weirdos, right? You're at a strip club and dudes are touching you and shit. A lot of these girls end up, using drugs or alcohol to kind of get through it. And then on the flip side, which is why I don't like, I don't really advocate for guys paying for sex and prostitution, is the guys that pay for sex end up having a negative connotation of women, because you're seeing her negative side where she's just using you as a wallet. So both parties effectively objectify each other to a wallet and a vagina. And when you objectify someone to that degree, you're going to start to grow contempt for that gender, because that's all you see all the time. So that's why
Have you grown contempt for the opposite gender? Because obviously what you see on a daily basis are these sex workers and OnlyFans workers that come into your show.
Yeah. We have definitely, there's some girls that have either worked for me or have come on the show that totally turned it around. They got out the porn industry, they stopped, they realized that like, yo, this is not it. And, if girls listen, I've always said it, if women actually listen to the podcast without their emotions and listen to what we're saying, the content, not necessarily how it's said, because women tend to care way too much about how I say things versus what I'm saying, they would get a lot of game and they would understand like, damn, this is what men really think. I need to swallow my pride and accept this. But it's very difficult for podcasts like this to beat the brainwashing of TikTok. If you scroll through female TikTok, it's fucking low IQ bullshit. Like it's like stupid shit all the time. And like girls constantly give each other terrible advice. Like, oh yeah, like do this on a date, or, do X, Y, Z, or do this and guys are going to like you. And it's like, no, he's not, man. Like what the fuck? They give each other terrible advice. Like girls will sit there and post photos of themselves, sexualize themselves on the internet, thinking that guys are going to like take this serious, or taking pictures of themselves in Dubai and shit. Like, dude, anytime I see a girl on a private jet or like in Dubai or some like really ritzy place, I'm just in my head like, whore. Like, I know you didn't pay for that. The fuck out of here.
Shagging for that.
Yeah, dude. Like, come on.
The problem is, of course, when they do post those pictures, they still get massive amounts of, let's call them simps or whatever.
Yeah.
They get, 200,000 likes on that photo. So to them, this is what guys want. But it's not necessarily the guys they're after. It's not what they want, but in their head, guys like this because I'm getting likes. And when I post a clothed picture, I'm getting half the amount of likes.
Yeah. Well, the need for attention overrides respect for herself a lot of the times, right? So, and the other thing too that guys need to understand on Instagram is that women are secretly competing with each other. And what I mean by that is they want to take the best pictures, they want to look the hottest, etc. But what they don't realize is by doing that, you're marketing yourself, but you're marketing yourself in an ineffective manner for men to take you seriously, right? Maybe will you get a date here or there? Will you meet a celebrity here or there? Will you maybe hook up one of these guys, have a fling with them? Yeah, for sure. But are they going to take you seriously? A lot of the times, no, right? Because most guys that are sane and aren't weirdos don't want their woman all over the internet naked, but women have a skewed perception and they think that that's attractive. The other thing too, from being on the pod and interviewing, we've interviewed almost 3,000 girls, is they tend to think that their social status and their money matters, which I always laugh. Like, no one gives a shit how much money you make. Guys might lie and say, oh, wow, you're educated. That's so attractive. But in the back of his mind is, I don't go fuck, bro. I just want to smash. So
would you mind if your girl earned more than you?
I don't think I'd be with a girl that made more than me. It just because the dynamics are going to be off. Can you establish frame with a girl that makes more money than you? Absolutely. It can be done. But what I've come to realize is that women that are high earners are annoying because they're like me and I don't want to date myself. Typically, if you're a high earner, right, you're going to have an A-type personality. You're not going to be agreeable. You're going to be busy all the time. You're going to be stressed. It ages you more. like you're going to be more masculine in your behaviors in general because, you know, earning money a lot of times requires masculine traits. And I don't like that. I don't want to date another A-type
What
personality.
about those guys that, you know, put their girlfriend on OnlyFans and they're profiting that way? So technically she's earning more than them, but they're the ones in charge of the operation.
I disagree with that. I would never put my girl on it. I mean, every man is different. So as long as the woman's acting within the man's authority, then it is what it is because that's what that guy wants. My only issue is when the girl's doing what she wants and the guy has no say in it. That's when I have a problem. But if she's doing it and her man instructed her to do it, or there's some kind of situation where he's controlling it, then even though I don't agree with it, that would make sense because the principle is correct, even though I don't agree with the actual action.
So making it actionable, how can a guy build that frame from the start so that they can actually build leverage in a relationship and not deal with any of the issues that we've just discussed?
You got to come in how you intend to stay. So, you know, whenever I deal with women up front, I kind of let them know, like, you know, you're not the boss. And of course, this isn't like me sitting her down like, okay, let's have a conversation. You're inferior. No, it's done through actions.
It doesn't even need to be said.
Yeah, it doesn't really need to be said. It's just done through your actions, right? Like what I always tell guys is the rule of thumb is you always want to be an active voice, never the passive voice. Instead of saying, hey, can we do this? Say, hey, let's do this. Hey, you know, what do you think about this? It's like, hey, we're going to do this. And what you're, you know, covertly doing is you're taking charge, you're taking authority, and you're letting her know, hey, I already got it figured out. And that's what girls secretly want. You know, even the staunchest feminists don't want a guy that can like take charge and everything. I would argue the stronger the feminist, the more she needs a masculine man to put her in her place. You know, the problem with that, though, is that guys like me don't want to deal with that bullshit. I'm not going to sit here and deal with a girl that wants to argue with me. That's one of the biggest turnoffs. But that's how you do it. Like you kind of come in with the frame of I'm the boss, you follow me. And then from there, you know, it kind of everything falls into place. And then, of course, you know, it's not always going to be perfect, right? She's going to step out of line. She's going to do shit that pisses you off. She's going to do, she's going to try to test you sometimes and maybe talk back to you or whatever. And it's on you to kind of, obviously, you know, never raise your hand at her, be violent or you scream. You always stay calm and let her know that, hey, if you continue this behavior, you're effectively going to become single. What do you want to do? And then if your value's high enough and she likes you, that's going to put the fear of God in her because girls don't want to be single. No matter how much they say, I want to be single. Shut up. No, you don't. You're single not by choice. You're single because the guy that you want doesn't want you back. That's why.
Do you think most men want to be single or is it the same thing?
That's a very good question. I think a majority of men, not all, if you took like 100 guys, 90 of them, if you told them, hey, dude, you can have 3 girlfriends, you know, and you don't have to be single. You can, and you could still behave like you're single, whatever. You can be polygamous, all that other stuff. They'd probably take that. A lot of guys, I think, are single out of necessity. So what ends up happening is the guy, right, is mid-level guy, whatever it may be. Maybe he's like, you know, kind of attractive, nice guy, charming a little bit, right? And he gets a girl. And a lot of times what ends up, the girl has higher value than him, or she perceives herself to have more higher value than him. So he says dumb shit like, oh, here's my better half. Oh, it's my girlfriend. She's my rock. Like dumb shit like that, right? And he pedestalizes his girl. And what ends up happening is he doesn't know it, but he's inadvertently giving her the leverage, right? And whenever you do that, she's going to start to think that she's better than you. You never want that. So what I tell guys is you got to come in with the frame that you're the boss. She should be happy to have you. And that drastically, you know, switches it around. And if you behave like that, girls are going to want you, and then you can have your pick of the litter, and then you can decide if you actually want to be single. But most guys, since there's a disparity in the sexual market value, they get with that girl by the skin of their fucking teeth, right? And the only way they get sexual access to her is by giving her a committed relationship, if that makes sense.
Now you two.
So she leverages her sex. In other words, sorry, she leverages her sex for compliance from the man, typically in the form of a long-term relationship.
So you guys are in committed relationships monogamously with one woman. Not you don't share a woman, you got one each. You actively choose not to see other girls.
Yeah.
Whether you could or not, that's for you to say. Why is that?
I believe there's something special with having one girlfriend and one partner that you go and build your life with and you go through life with. Like we've obviously got a vision for the future, me and Millie. We want to have, you know, lots of kids, have a nice house, all of that stuff. So we're both working towards the same goal.
I think that if I was getting with a new girl now, if I was being honest, yeah, I probably would like to have that abundance of women and be able to do whatever I want. But my situation is very different because I got with my girl when I was 17.
Oh, shit.
I didn't even have a job. You know, my life was a complete mess. And I've sort of, you know, gone through and we've sort of leveled up together. So for me, it doesn't sit right with me to be like, well, you held me down when I had nothing. She used to buy my McDonald's at college because I had no money at all. So then how am I going to then become successful, start making a little bit of money? And then as soon as I see success, it's, oh, now I'm going to start shagging other girls. It just makes no sense. Like, I don't see how you can do that. And I wouldn't do that. So
that's admirable, because that's a fundamental difference between men and women. Most, they always say to men, do what's right, and for women, do what's right for you. Most girls want to stick by you in that situation, right? They typically girls want to wait at the finish line and get the best guy. So whenever a girl builds with you, and helps you become that guy, I think at some point, like, it's on you as the guy to, stay with that woman, take care of that woman, especially if she helped build you up. Maybe she could be, wife number one, and then you get a second one or whatever, or a side chick. But I definitely do think that if a girl helps you build up, especially from your adolescence, that's definitely to be rewarded, because most women won't.
Yeah, and I also just can't do anything for myself. I cannot look after myself in any way, shape, or form. So I'd be absolutely fucked without her.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my situation.
But sorry to cut you off quickly. Would your girls let you, if you wanted to, have other girls? And if not, does that mean they've set the frame wrong?
Well, Millie started off saying that she would let me have other girls.
Okay.
But then recently she's changed her opinion on that. And I think that's fair enough. I don't want other girls anyway. And we're building a future together. So that kind of makes sense.
A lot of guys obviously, are okay with being monogamous, and that's fine. My thing is, I just want guys to be in a position where they're making that decision, not the girl. Because like I said before, remember how I said a lot of guys are, single out of necessity? A lot of the times, one of the contingencies of I'll get with you, even though you have lower sexual market value and I'm the prize of the girl, because there's a lot of girls think, you have to be monogamous to me. I want it where the guy's getting with her and she's happy, and it's a privilege that he's monogamous to her. And at any time, you can forfeit that and say, I'm going to have other chicks, and she doesn't have a say in it. That's where I want the guy to be. And people might say, well, that's fucked up, Myron. That's misogynistic. No, it's realistic, because the man always has to have leverage over the girl. That's how you maintain attraction with women. I wish it wasn't this way, guys. I wish we could be nice and shiny knights in armor and give flowers and, exemplify chivalry at all times. But women only respect men that behave like they're superior to them and are superior to them. And a lot of the times that's, I call the shots. You don't really have a say in this.
What would you say the majority of it comes down to? Would you say that it's money, or is there other things that men could be doing? Because I would say that, like, everything my girl has, I own. So like that would be the leverage there. But is it just money, or is there other things? It's
a multitude of things, right? The most tangible one that's easy to identify is obviously money, right? But you also have status, you have your physicality, you have your tonality, the way you speak, how others perceive you. All these things factor in. And I want guys to have all of it, because what ends up happening, right? Like, let's say you got a lot of money, but you're a pussy, right? What'll end up happening is girls will look at you as a wallet, and they're not really going to be aroused by you. You get the starfish sex, and she don't really want to smash you like that. It's like, pity bullshit. And a lot of guys that are in relationships out of necessity, what'll happen is they have the money, but they don't have the frame. Then you got guys that are very attractive, fairly dominant, right? Women would find them from a arousing standpoint pretty high, but they don't have the money to keep a relationship long-term, and she doesn't feel security with him. So she might cheat on him with some other guy that has money. So I say guys need to have everything. So no matter what she's requiring, because different women have different things. There's some girls that if you don't have money, they're not going to fuck with you. There's some girls that if you're not in physical shape, they're just not going to talk to you. So if you have everything, you're more marketable to a larger percentage of women, and she's going to start to see that value, because most importantly, other women are going to see that value. Girls want guys that other girls want. So,
and how do you say you're in a relationship? And I agree with that statement that girls want guys, that other girls want. How do you remind your girl that you're desired by other females without crossing the line or cheating on her?
Well, my chick's in the back laughing. I'll say for a regular guy, because I'm not going to use myself as an example, right? But just by when you're out and about, do other women look at you, right? Do colleagues look at you? And she'll know if you're, because women are very socially receptive. They can see when other girls are checking out their guy. They can see when you walk into a room, how other people perceive you. It's amazing actually how much more social IQ women have than us. Like, I'm 33, right? I've been studying this crap for the better part of, all my adult life. I still don't have the social IQ as like an 18-year-old female. Like, they're just able to pick stuff up immediately. Men have to learn this stuff. Women naturally have it, and there's a bunch of reasons for it from a biological standpoint. They're physically inferior, so they need to be able to read, characteristics and body language better so they can figure out if they need to run or stay. So other women perceiving you as attractive is, I would say, the most honest and best indicator. If you look at all the guys that do really good with girls, you look at like an Andrew Tate, a Tristan Tate, a Dan Bilzerian, etc. These guys, what do they all have in common? They have a bunch of women that provide social proof for them.
All right, boys, just a quick one. I know I'm probably hard to look at and listen to right now with this moustache going on, but it's Christmas, we're rocking. I don't want to see any comments about it. In other news, I really want to get you guys involved with the show on a more personal level. I'm talking about the ability to ask guests questions that you've always wanted the answers to that we might not have considered, or to recommend your dream guest for an upcoming podcast. But I think most importantly, to network with us and other like-minded entrepreneurs. To accomplish this, we've created a Strike It Big Discord server. It's a completely free community for you guys to join. We're always going to be in there just talking business, having a good time. We've even got like a little premiere thing on there where we can all jump on and watch a podcast as it drops, like together on a call, which I think will be pretty sick. Links in the description down below. If you join the Discord now and you're one of the first 500 people to join, you'll get like a founding member badge attached to your profile, so people will know that you're one of the first 500 in there. And yeah, I think it's going to be sick. So can't wait to see you guys in there. Let's run it up.
And if a girl cheats on a guy, whose fault is that?
It's the man's fault. It's the man's fault. And the reason why it's the man's fault is because you're the leader, you're the authority. If you picked a girl that cheated on you, you didn't vet her properly. You didn't see red flags, because women don't like cheat on accident. It's a very calculated and a lot of times callous move on their end, because at that point they've lost respect for you. Like for women, they cheat on you emotionally, and that takes time. So you've been fucking up for a long period of time if your girl cheated on you.
Have you ever been cheated on?
No. Not for the girl that like I made a main girl. No. Side chicks, whatever. I don't give a fuck. They could do whatever they want. That's why they're side chicks.
So how many main girls do you have, and how many side chicks?
Right now, one.
One main girl.
One main girl. Yeah.
So what's the difference? And what's the difference between a main girl and a side girl in terms of how much time you spend with them and what you do with them?
Main girl, like, she gets certain privileges and accesses that other girls just aren't. She's involved in my day-to-day. She knows my close friends and colleagues. She helps me out with my business, right? I'll shout her out. She's here, actually, Angie. She helps me with my true crime channel. She's actually switching the cameras right now as we speak.
Angie.
That's the importance of, having your main girl be an asset to you and help you out and make you better. I always look at it like women should compliment the man and make him perform. If he's performing at like 98%, she can bring it to 102, 103, 104, give you that slight edge on the competition.
Do you have like a graduation ceremony when the side chick becomes the main girl?
Yeah, so it's funny. I genuinely believe that the girl's got to ask you out. It shouldn't be you ask the girl out. The girl needs to ask you out. And there's a very important reason for this. The reason why is because when the girl asks to be, and if she's not going to say, will you be my boyfriend? She's going to pop the question, what are we? Where can you define, where do we stand? And that's basically her asking you out, right? Because women aren't as overt as we are. That's where you can kind of dictate your terms. Hey, I like you and everything else like that, but I'm not easy to be with. I have requirements. Oh, what are those requirements? Then you could list off what you don't like, right? Every man is different. Like for me personally, my boundaries is you ain't going to the club. You're not going to be around men I don't know, right? And having guy friends and all this other weirdo stuff. You're not going to have provocative photos on the internet, or, it's going to be on private, whatever it may be that I can manage. A bunch of different terms, right? Basic stuff.
Is it like a list, like a contract, like sign here?
Yeah, almost. But yeah, you just basically, and every guy's different with their boundaries, right? Luckily with Angie, I didn't really have any issues with this stuff. But with other girls, you might have to. You might date a girl that's a model, right? And she's on Instagram showing her ass all over the place. Hey, I don't really commit to girls that do this. And then she's got to make the conscious decision if she's going to do it or not. But the beauty is this. If she complies, then okay, she actually takes this somewhat seriously. She's willing to change for me. And then most importantly, she's the one that asked for the relationship. So now she has to negotiate the terms with you because you're the one giving the terms. You're basically the employer. She's the employee and she's applying to your job. I always tell guys, pretend you're a prestigious law firm. Make the girl work to work at your law firm. And if she wants to rise up and make partner, she's got to have the job requirements. She's got to have the skills. She's got to have the resume, etc. to do so. But a lot of guys treat themselves like fucking McDonald's and they employ these random assholes that don't deserve jobs.
With this main girl, side girl setup, do you reckon you can actually fall in love properly?
Yes. Because men, we love a lot differently than women do, right? Like men typically show their love through loyalty of providing resources, loyalty, of being an emotional stability rock for them. I had a great conversation with Psych Hacks about this, right? In every relationship, there's the adored and then the person that the adorer and the adored. And in that relationship, right? Because no relationship is ever 50-50. Someone always has to like each other more, like the other party more. And in this case, the woman needs to adore you more than you adore her, because women need that emotional stimuli of romance and love and all other stuff, because women get bored very quickly, right? So they need to feel those emotions. The only way you're going to feel those emotions is if you're the person adoring, not if you're the adored. If you're the adored, you're going to be like, okay, another fucking day, blah, blah, blah. But men can do that. We can sit there and be bored by our girlfriend and stay by her side. Women can't do that, though. They get bored with their man, it's a fucking wrap. It's done. So women need that emotional stimuli. Men don't. So that is why the woman needs to adore the man. Now, to answer your question, as far as like, can you have multiple chicks and care for them? Yeah, because they're adoring you. You're not the one adoring them. If you're the one adoring them, then yeah, you're probably going to have to be one girl because you're going to be simping on her and all this other shit. But if it's the other way around and you do it appropriately where she's adoring you, multiple girls can adore you, and you reciprocate with how men love, which is loyalty, taking care of her, protecting her in times of danger, etc. The way we show our love is much different.
Do you think having side girls makes your main girl more likely to cheat on you, though? Because she knows that you're going out there seeing other girls on a day-to-day basis, and you obviously, she feels like you can't care for her as much as maybe you could if you're monogamous.
Some girls might feel that way, but again, if you establish the boundaries from the beginning where she's on your terms and everything else like that, she's not going to cheat on you because she worked really hard to get you. That's the importance of her asking you. Because if she asked you, she had to put herself in she had to work for it. And when women work for things, they typically don't want to give it away. I mean, have you guys been on a date with a girl where she pays? Damn, probably burns them to do that shit. So, like whenever women work for things,
though?
I never do personally.
No.
I never do. But girls have a girl really likes you when she spends her own money on you.
I had a girl pay for the first time in secret the other day. And we've been on, to be fair, we've been on probably like 7 or 8 dates. And I paid for every single one. But I went to the toilet on this one occasion and I came back and she'd paid. And the bill was probably like 200 quid. To me,
I think it's disrespectful, to be honest. I would hate it.
I actually find it quite attractive.
But isn't that her trying to take control of the relationship? Why do you find that attractive?
Not because of the money, not because I have no problem paying and I always will pay. And every time, if I get the chance, I'll pay before she even sees it's paid and it's done, right? But the fact that she wanted to do that kind of just shows to me, look, I do appreciate you. And I'm not just here for the ride. Like, I do genuinely like you.
Yeah, I think it's just one of them things as well. Like, if my girl takes my car and then brings it back with fuel full, like, I'm not going to be pressed about it. It's just like, it is what it is. I appreciate that.
It's more the gesture than the money itself.
Yeah, like, it's just, I don't see it as a big deal. If it wasn't the first date and she's doing that to be nice, I guess it shows that she cares. And I wouldn't be too pressed.
Yeah, I mean, what in situations like that, what I'll do is like I'll appreciate the gesture, then I'll like send her the money after the fact. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, that is a telltale sign that she actually likes you, because if a girl spends money on you, that's one of the most honest indicators, because women typically don't spend money on men.
I mean, they don't have to.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think that something could be progressing here.
Okay,
but we can't say too much about that. But yeah, I think you're in for a good one there.
So who taught you to be a man? Did you have a role model in your life?
Yeah. So both my parents are still together. My parents are from Sudan originally. It's a Arab speaking Muslim country in North Africa. So gender roles are very, alive over there. There's none of this feminism and all the other bullshit. So the poorer the country, the more people typically regress back to their traditional gender roles. So with my dad and watching my parents, I saw a traditionally masculine guy with a traditionally feminine woman. I remember, from childhood, like my mom would get anxiety if she didn't pack my dad lunch and he went to work without like a lunchbox. She'd like get in the car and drive. Yeah, she'd literally get in the car and drive to him. She would, the house was always clean. I can't think of a time where I came home and the house was like messed up. Everything was always spotless. So both my parents did their jobs and it worked out. And, my dad told me from an early age, like, hey, you can't be a bum. You gotta be a man. You got to be able to provide for people, etc. And I do think that women shouldn't be in the workplace from a mandatory standpoint. I think it should be elective. Now, me growing up, I grew up poor, so my mom did have to help because, my parents had to learn English and figure things out. But once my dad got to a certain point, my mom worked more on an elective point. It's funny though, because I was already an adult by then. They didn't start making money until I was out the house. God damn it. So, but now they're doing better. They're not rich by any means, right? They're still brokies in my eyes, but growing up, but I'm glad for it though. Like I would not redo my childhood whatsoever. I grew up poor, but I had good parents, and I'll take that any day over growing up rich with shitty parents, because I learned like the fundamentals of what it is to be a man through my father.
What would you say to all those guys that are growing up nowadays without fathers, because it's becoming more and more common?
It's tough, man. It's tough because we're seeing the consequences of it. You know, you see more drug addicts, more homeless people, more degeneracy, more people involved in illicit activities. You know, the stats don't lie. You know, if you don't have a father figure in the home, you are statistically more likely to just be a fuck up, right? For society, whether a criminal, homeless, drug addict, alcoholic, whatever it is, all the negative things typically come from fatherless households, because the father typically is the disciplinarian. I always say the dad, if he's doing his job correctly, is the first line of defense from you making serious mistakes, right? So I remember as a kid, my dad would lecture me, if I ever catch you smoking weed or doing drugs, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you and I'm gonna send you back to the Middle East, right? And I was like, God damn, okay, I'm not gonna do this, right? And I played sports and stuff too, and that helped. But if I really wanted to do it, right, there were times where I was with friends and they offered me weed or whatever, but I always had that fear looming in the back of my mind that my dad would be the disciplinarian and fuck my day up and send me back, you know, to Saudi Arabia or to Sudan or one of these Middle Eastern countries, right? So it kept me in line. If I didn't have him there, I would have probably been doing all the dumb shit.
That's why content like this is so important, though, because I come from the opposite end of the spectrum. I had no father figure or anything like that. I had no parents at all, actually. So I was like completely wild, kicked out of school. If I was supposed to be grounded, it would just be fuck off, I'm going out anyway, putting my shoes on. You know, I had none of that stuff, which is why I said I was lost when I got with my girlfriend. And if it wasn't for content like this, then I have no idea where I would be now. For me, it started with you know, Graham Stephan, the same as Fresh, learning about credit score and investing and things like that, and then it progressed from there. So yeah, I'm on the complete, you know, opposite end of the spectrum, and I think content like this is so important for that reason.
And the crazy thing is that it's been suppressed for so long. You know, people like me and, you know, Andrew and Tristan and Waller and all these guys, we get a bad rap, right? Like a lot of these YouTubers will sit there and be like, look at these toxic alpha males, right? Say some bullshit like that. But what they don't realize is, number one, none of us really run around and call ourselves alpha. That's fucking lame. I've not heard any of those guys ever say that, or myself. But this content's really important because it's letting guys know, young guys especially, that there's a burden of performance. There are consequences to your actions. You know, you can't be sitting here and be a degenerate and think that you're going to become successful, especially nowadays where it's more competitive than ever before. You know, you used to be able to just have like a regular job and support a family. You can't do that anymore. You really got to be on your P's and Q's. So content like this is really important, man, especially for young guys that don't have father figures. You know, I can't tell you how many DMs I get where, I was going to end it all. You know, you're like the big brother I never had. I never had a dad. You taught me how to, save money and improve my credit, whatever it may be. And that's like really important to me because like we're kind of forging a foundation for the future generation of guys to understand that, you can't be a fucking loser. You can't be out here smoking weed every day and doing drugs and drinking and thinking you're going to get somewhere. It's not going to happen, and there's not much content like that, for men until like really we started blowing up. So, people could say whatever they want to say about guys like us and Andrew Tate and everything else like that, but we really are helping a bunch of guys.
I think interestingly as well, it doesn't matter whether people have got fathers or not, because a lot of my friends will have fathers, but their dad doesn't know shit about making money or building a credit score.
Yeah.
And if they was a kid when they were younger and they would say, oh, can I go and do this, Dad? I'll go and ask your mum. They're not running their household or anything like that. So sometimes having a dad can be worse than not.
Yeah.
And I don't really regret my childhood at all, and I probably wouldn't change it even if I could now that my life has gone the way it has.
Yeah, men definitely have to suffer to grow and become better.
Yeah.
How about you, Tom? Like, who disciplined you in the household?
I was kind of like Kai. I grew up without really any male role models, but I found mine through different older men that I kind of met throughout life. So I remember my first girlfriend, her dad was kind of like a father to me in a way, a guy that I respected him very much. He was a business guy. He had good morals, etc., etc. So like I looked up to him. He was kind of my first role model. And since then, there's been a few kind of men, whether I've worked with them or they're a dad of a friend or a girlfriend who I've kind of used as that person. And content as well.
Yeah, it makes sense why Fresh and Fit has obviously blew up and become so influential. Did you think it was going to be that from the start when you first started the podcast?
Yeah, I'd be lying. I mean, I always said, we got next, we're going to take over. I didn't think we'd do it this quick though. To go from me, arresting bad guys, right? And because I started the podcast while I was still working for the government, right? So it wouldn't be like I'd be funny story. Like I had a very big case. It was a national security case, right? Dealing with like Sri Lankans or whatever. And I remember we arrested one of the main guys, and then like I went back after I dropped them off at the jail and everything else like that. And I like went back and like wrote like a script or content or whatever for like the next pod they were doing, because I was still trying to figure out how to properly talk in front of a camera and everything else like that. So I was still like in early stages. So I didn't think we would grow that quickly. I knew we were gonna grow because like I kind of saw a void in the marketplace that we could have filled, but I didn't think it would have been that fast.
How fast did the income grow? Like, what were you making at the stage where you were still working with law enforcement?
So when I worked in law enforcement, and you can actually look this stuff all up on the internet, on like, on opm.gov, right? Because all government employees, you can see their salaries. So I was, for people out there that want to nerd out, I was a GS 13, 1811. And 1811 is the job series code for special agent, right? Or criminal investigator. Equivalent to, you guys call your investigators inspectors, probably, I think, out in the UK.
Like chief inspectors or something
they do
like that.
Or a detective, a criminal investigator. So in the United States, FBI, DEA, HSI, etc., it's all, the job series code is 1811, but it's special agent, right? So you have the power to conduct arrests, serve search warrants, have guns, all that other stuff, right? With that, I was a GS-13 in the Miami locality area. I was bringing about just like 13.2 or 3 before I left. So I was making about 120K per year. Then I started a side business, a fitness business, online coaching. That was making me like another 120 to 150 per year.
Really? Wow.
This is around 29. This is like 2018, 29. No, I started business 2019, or 2018. So yeah, this is around 2019, 2020-ish.
So what were you selling? Like plans, fitness plans, or coaching, online coaching?
Yeah, so I was basically helping guys get in shape. I'd tell them what I'd give them a macronutrient allotment, workout plan, right? Depending on what their goals were. And then I would do weekly to bi-weekly call-ins with them and answer questions.
So do you think that's a business that people can start nowadays, or is there too many people doing it?
The online fitness coaching has grown exponentially, especially since COVID. But it's definitely, you got to have a niche. That's the big thing, is you got to have a niche. You got to know what you're talking about. It's very competitive, especially since so many people left the gyms, right? Because a lot of personal trainers want to go online because you can scale better. But I think if you got a brand and you're good at what you do, you can absolutely still find clients, especially if you got a platform. But I would be lying if I didn't say it was more competitive now.
Yeah, it's so saturated. But on that note, I do know someone that started online coaching in, I think, about February, March, and they're already doing 10K pounds plus per month. So I think there's still room, but as you said, he's picked a niche. He's training entrepreneurs who don't have time to,
there you go,
whatever, get fit, get in the gym. So I think as long as you pick a niche, there's
although I get so many of those messages like in my DMs.
Oh, it's literally everything.
You probably don't have time to do your meals and all of that.
Yeah, I'm even getting like people who want to automate my dating outreach.
I get so many times.
That's actually a good service. I have a buddy that runs some of my shit, because that's using dating apps is annoying, guys. I ain't gonna lie.
What dating apps are you on?
I tell guys to use everything, Tinder, Bumble, Tinder, Bumble. What else? Oh, Hinge.
Yeah.
Hinge.
He loves Hinge. He's always on there.
Use the sugar sites. Like, use everything. Like, I'm a big proponent of putting as many fishing rods out there, because with girls, you gotta work volume. You gotta you gotta look at like dealing with women is like kind of like sales, right? So you got online dating, Instagram, night game where you go to club, day game, talking to girls like during everyday life, and then social circle. Those are the main 5 ways that men meet women. So you need to use all those sourcing tools, right? And then you take those leads and you put them into your database, right? Like, which basically, I mean, like a phone number or an Instagram, right? Some kind of way to contact them.
CRM system.
Yeah. And then you contact them, and then you set up a date, and then you go from there, right? But that's how it's got to be. And that's another thing. If guys that struggle with dating fundamentally don't understand this, that like, number one, you need to source more. Number two, you're going to get rejected by most girls you talk to. Even if you're a fucking Chad and you got everything together, some girls are just going to reject you just because, you know what I mean? Like, she could be having a bad day. She could just not be feeling it that day. A lot of times when you get rejected, it's not necessarily you as much as it's just her having a preference or just not liking what you're bringing to the table, which is fine. You just got to work volume though. The top guys in the world only close about 10%. So, but yeah, so it's like a sales funnel, but yeah, the online coaching thing is definitely helped me. I was bringing in like around, at that point, I was bringing in like close to 300K working for the government and doing my side
This
business.
is before like the podcast started and all
Before
of that.
the podcast like was really like taking off. Yeah. And then I took that money and I was able to save it and I invested it into a lot of the startup equipment that we bought. Like I was able to put in like 40K and get like, I remember we started off with like off rip, like a Rodecaster Pro, Sony a6 400s, good lenses, an ad time switcher, so, and then we had panels all over the place. So we were able to start with fairly high production quality from the beginning. And I think that was huge for us because at the time, this is during COVID or whatever, people were starting to watch YouTube, but like we just like kind of got in there because, when COVID officially like really hit, if you notice, like a bunch of YouTubers really stepped their game up with production quality, damn near TV now. So I'm glad that I had that money to invest in good equipment off rip so that we can like have higher production quality. And then we just started to grow.
Did you have the idea to bring in OnlyFans girls from the start, or is that something that slowly grew?
No. So how that story happened, and I got to credit Fresh with this one. We had went on a double date, right, with some girls, and what ended up happening is we got back. I had a few White Claws that night. I don't really drink, but this time we did. And I remember Fresh was like, bro. He looks at me. He's all like fucking like googly eyed and shit because he don't drink at all. He had like 2 shots. He was like fucking. He was saucy. He was saucy, right? He looks at me. He's like, "Bro, we should go live right now." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, let's just do it." It's like 10 p.m. Right? Mind you, we had only been doing daytime shows at like 6 or 7. It's like, let's just fucking go live right now. Fuck it, man. I was like, "All right," and then we just like hit the go live button. We just sat there and shot the shit with the girls for a bit, and people enjoyed it. And we asked like really provoking questions, about female nature or whatever. And guys like, whoa, what the hell? Girls really think like this? And it just kind of took off from there.
What's more rewarding, doing the federal agent stuff or this stuff now? And not just rewarding, what has a bigger impact on the world?
You really asked me that. Okay. So I loved my last job. Like fucking loved it. Like you guys don't get it. Like I was a go-getter agent. I had the most arrests in like 2016, 2017 in my field office. I was like getting after it, doing Title IIIs, which is basically listening to people's phones. Like I was doing all the crazy shit that you guys, see in these movies or whatever, right? It was a very fulfilling job, putting away really bad people. And the beauty was HSI investigates so many different crimes. Like one day I could be arresting a pedophile. Another day I can be involved in a national security case that deals with terrorism. Another day I'm doing a gang case with drugs. My specialty was drug trafficking and like human smuggling and trafficking, like border crimes and kidnappings and violence. Then I could be doing a gun thing. So I was always doing different stuff. So it was always different every day. But as far as like creating impact for the world, it's this part that doesn't even come close, right? You can save a couple kids here and there, put a couple bad people away. But being able to tell people, on the other side of the world, hey, you got way more to live for than some fucking random bimbo that broke up with you, and keeping that guy from putting a gun in their mouth, that has way more impact.
I know it sounds shallow as well, but I think there is an element as well of like, if you could put that guy in jail, which is good, but if you don't do it, someone else will. Like someone else would have took your job straight away. Whereas to replace the fresh and fit message and show is not as easy.
Well, I guess you can inspire the next generation to go into, law enforcement because I see that you loved it so much and always speak so highly of it.
The reason why I like this so much too is because we actually put really bad people away. Like I wasn't like, going after some guy selling dime bags and shit. Like we were going after dudes that like kill people and like are trafficking in thousands of pounds of the stuff. We went after some of the worst criminals, right? Especially when I started my career on the Mexican border. But, yeah, I mean, it is, an interchangeable part. When I leave, can someone else do the job? Absolutely. I like to think that, I was one of the better agents than most because, a lot of people in the government are fucking lazy, to be honest with y'all. But as far as like creating impact, yeah, I mean, from a scale perspective, touching more people across the world, definitely have been able to do that more with this for sure.
You mentioned fresh and fit can't be replaced, but there are some people trying to copy your formula and how your show works. What do you think of those people?
I mean, they can imitate, but they'll never replicate, The thing is that what I've noticed is that people tend to copy our after-hour show format of bringing girls on. They're missing the whole point. We bring the girls on so that guys can see how a lot of modern-day women think, adapt to the new normal, and improve. But if you're just showing them the delusion of modern-day females without giving them the prerequisite tools to actually know how to deal with it, what difference does it make? It's just mindless entertainment. So to me, I look at it like people come in, they watch the after hours. Oh, wow, this interesting drama. And then they'll be like, wait, hold on. These guys did a video on how to write up a resume. Wait, these guys did a video on how to get into law enforcement. These guys did a thing on how to invest in real estate. What the fuck? Yo. And then they come in and that's where their lives get changed. Not off of the dumb hoes. It's the other day, our Money Monday stuff, our Red Pill Wednesdays where we talk about intersexual dynamics and how to be attractive. That's where they really learn the stuff. Our call-in shows where we literally just answer live calls for hours, right? Answering their questions. So that's where they get the real value. Do those get as much views? No, of course not, right? Because it's not like mindless entertainment. But that's where people really get the help, and that creates more impact.
What's your opinion on the OnlyFans space?
I'm not surprised, right? Pornography is ubiquitous in modern day society, so it only would make sense that, you know, girls that have a following would monetize on that following, especially when they have a following mostly of young, horny guys that aren't getting laid, that play too much video games. So it's a natural, you know, progression. I think it's, you know, girls shouldn't do it, right? If they're intelligent and serious about having a family and having children and having a man take them seriously, they shouldn't do it. But, you know, unfortunately, we live in a society where we tell women to be boss babes and make money by any means necessary. You know, we tell them that all money is good money. Fast money is good money. And I've always said fast money typically leads to slow problems. You know, we're going to have and I gave a prediction on this. I think within the next 20 to 30 years, we're going to see even more mentally ill, mentally unstable, depressed women.
And what about the impact of on the men watching it?
Yeah, I mean, they're no better. They're the consumers. So, you know, and this is why I tell guys, don't watch porn. You know, don't subscribe to these OnlyFans girls. You know, you're helping perpetuate the degeneracy, and you're fucking up.
Do you ever feel conflicted though? Because obviously a lot of the girls will get subscribers off of coming on your show.
Absolutely, and you know, that's a very fair critique, very fair point. And my answer to that is, you have to look evil in the face and say no sometimes, right? And, you know, am I saying the girls that come on the thing are the devil? No. But what I am saying is that guys need to understand that, because we try to make the panels an assortment of different women. Some girls are OnlyFans girls, some girls are professionals, some girls have master's degrees, some girls have bachelor's degrees, all different walks of life, right? Different education levels, different ages, different backgrounds, etc. And what I've come to realize is there's not really much difference in how they think. You know, the only difference between like an educated girl and like a bimbo is that the educated girl can articulate her delusion a bit better, right? So once guys understand that women aren't really that different as they try to claim that they are, right? I think their eyes get opened, right?
So why have so many OnlyFans girls on when you could have people with degrees on, for example?
Well, that's a very good question too. A lot of times these girls have jobs, they have careers, etc., that they have to protect. They'll want to come on, but they're like, hey, you know, you guys are kind of big. My HR might see me. It's for the same exact reasons that I had to leave the government, right? Once you start to grow a platform, it's very difficult to also be in the professional world to a degree, especially when you talk about controversial topics like we do. We try to bring as many professional girls as we can, but are they always filled with them? No, you know, but we do bring in a good amount where it'll typically be an assortment. Some OnlyFans girls, some professional girls. And I totally understand how someone might say, hey, well, that's a hypocrisy. You talk about don't commit to sex workers or OnlyFans girls, but you bring them on the show. Yeah, it's so that guys can understand how these women really think and what they think about them. We've brought OF girls on, and they literally say, yeah, if you're on my OnlyFans, you're an idiot. I'm finessing, blah, blah, blah. And I need guys to see this in like 1080p, 4K, that these girls don't give a fuck about you, bro. You're talking to a bot, you know? Like, what are you doing? So it reaffirms how little respect women have for guys that consume pornography and why they shouldn't do it. Now, with that said, do we have a lot of simps that watch us that are going to subscribe anyway? Yeah. But for the guys out there that can be like, damn, what the hell am I doing? It's worth it.
Do you have to pay these professional girls to come on? Because obviously there's a value exchange for the OnlyFans girls to get their tag, but for the professional girls, what's the kind of the value exchange there?
No, we don't charge. We don't pay anybody, and we don't charge anybody as far as girls go. And people ask me, bro, bring OnlyFans girls on, and you guys can get a cut of whatever revenue they make. I refuse to do it. You know, like I said before, not all money is good money. And, you know, bringing on OnlyFans, because some of these girls actually do make a bunch of money coming on here, but we don't want to touch it. We understand that exposing the bullshit of pornography is a necessary thing, but to like monetize on it isn't like a good move. Like, I don't want to be involved in that. I just want guys to see it, see what the hell's going on. This is what's out there. Like, God damn it, have some goddamn discipline, understand, and obviously make the best decision. But we try to keep it varied where it's not all OnlyFans girls on the panel. We might have 1 or 2 or 3. But then the other girls are like regular chicks.
Where do you think the problem lies with the OnlyFans? Is it the girls doing it, or is it the guys paying for it? Because I mean, we personally know some girls that they make 6 figures in a day sometimes just off OnlyFans.
It's crazy.
So is it their fault? Is it the guy's fault?
It's both parties. But I always put the responsibility on the men. Anytime, because I look at women as, this might be people are going to talk shit, but I look at women as subordinates. I look at them as natural subordinates. That's their job, is to be a subordinate to a superior man. That's what they want. They want to be with a guy that can lead them and direct them, etc. Whenever I see women doing fuckery like that, I know that they don't have a strong leader telling them what to do, typically, most of the time. So it's the guys. It's the men, not being men.
What do you think about this? So we had Sterling Cooper on the podcast the other week.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how a lot of the guys that are on OnlyFans, they are, simping for these girls in a way where it's like they're being criticized, tell me I've got a small cock, tell me this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was saying, like, where are these guys? Because I've never heard of one or seen of one. And then
they live among us.
Yeah, they live among us somewhere.
They hide it.
But then, of course, we got to the point where it's like, well, they're not going to rave and shout about it, obviously.
Yeah.
He said that typically it is the successful guys that are into that sort of thing because they're so used to being the boss and have people listen to them all day, every day, that then when it gets to the end of the day, they actually want that role to be reversed almost as like a bit of fresh air. But that to me sounds a bit wild. So what do you think?
I think that's a mental illness. I think that's a mental illness, just like people that claim I am, XYZ gender, whatever the fuck. It's a mental illness. There's 2 genders, I don't care what anybody says. And then as far as like a guy that says, oh yeah, I want to be bossed around by a chick, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? You probably put on a facade to reach a certain level of success, but behind closed doors, you want to do this weird stuff. Something's wrong with you more than likely.
And do you agree with the point that it's the successful men that are doing this, or?
I've never encountered it, but then again, like we said before, they're not going to admit that shit. But I have heard girls talk about it. But let's be honest, they're probably sensationalizing it a bit. For every maybe 100 guys that are super successful, how many of them are weird like this? Maybe 5. It's a minority, but minorities tend to stick out because they're so fucking far-fetched in what they do, right? So
a bit of business behind the podcast. Is Fresh and Fit 50-50?
Equity-wise?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's 50-50. We started together. We ended together. I know people say what they're going to say about like Fresh or whatever, but I mean, he's a critical component to the podcast.
And what do they say about Fresh?
People hate, man. And that's kind of how it always is. People always have negative things to say. They almost never highlight the positives. They highlight the negatives. They'll say, "Oh, you stutters," or some stupid shit like that. But
what he told us, he obviously does a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yes.
He set up the Rumble deal, I believe. So did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, he got us in with Rumble. A lot of the guests early on the podcast, like he brought on, he was instrumental in us stepping out of just the red pill niche, because the red pill tends to be like an echo chamber of like just the same shit over and over. So our thing was, we're like, all right, we're going to diversify. We're still going to give you guys knowledge on intersexual dynamics, but we're also going to add in solutions, because a lot of the content is complaining about female nature and hypergamy. Fuck that. Women are going to be women. Stop crying. Let's come up with solutions. And for us to come up with solutions, we have to kind of step outside the normal repertoire of what red pill creators make. And then also we wanted to diversify because we have other interests, right? I'm interested in true crime. Fresh likes lifestyle and cars and stuff like that. So we brought on some car YouTubers. I'm very interested in like geopolitics, right? So we brought people on to talk about geopolitics, whether it's the conflict in Russia or other worldly situations going on. So we try to be diversified, and the red pill isn't just about, getting the truth when it comes to women. It's about getting the truth in all different facets of life. So he was instrumental in us like getting out of that echo chamber of that niche and being able to expand into other avenues.
And how do you maintain a sound relationship with each other? You're building this empire together. Yeah. Presumably you don't agree on every single thing. So how do you balance that and make sure that, both your opinions are heard and you're kind of working together?
Well, we agree on like 99% of things, to be honest with y'all. The only real difference I could think of between me and Fresh is he likes to be outside more than I do. He likes to go out and, be more social. I don't necessarily like doing that unless I have to for the business. We're different. Our approach to how we deal with women is different.
Are you an introvert?
I want to say an introvert, but I definitely value time alone. I think that's very important. And then also I do it so that like, and I do a lot of research on my own. So like, I'm really big on like studying history, being more competent, looking up things, and like I'm that guy that like I'll think of something, I'm like, God damn, what about, then I'll like Google it and I'll be like, oh cool, that's a cool fact. So I'm always trying to watch like documentaries and stuff like that to make myself smart, and then also be sharper on the show, because the more historical and or educational content you consume, the more you can give examples, analogies, be a better orator, pick up new vocabulary. So I'm always trying to self-improve and be a better host as well. So
what about with fame and clout that you now have? Where does that come into play for you mentally? Is it something you desire? Is it something you try and avoid? Is it just part of the job?
It's a part of the job. We obviously grew very quick, and I went from like being a very private person, federal agent. Nobody knows what my name is, right? That's how I came up with the Myron Gaines name. A lot of people say, "Yo, Myron, why do you use a fake name?" It's because I was working for the government when I started this business.
I didn't know it was a fake name.
It's a fake name. So like, my real name's Amru, but like it's a weird ass name. But the reason why is if you Google my real name, you're gonna see like court documents of cases I've done, right? Federal cases I've done. So because it's a very unique name. So when I started, I used the moniker Myron Gaines so that people wouldn't like look me up and see what I really did for work. And then a hater doxed me, which is actually hilarious. Thank you very much, hater, because we ended up making another channel off of it. You fucking dickhead. And people were able to see another side of me. And that's why I used that name for so long.
Do you ever miss privacy?
At times. I've kind of gotten used to it now. I get recognized a lot now when I'm out and about. But my biggest thing is I never act Hollywood. I'm never, oh nah, bro, I can't take a pic, or nah, man, whatever. I always will stop, take a photo, say what's up, have a quick little conversation, even if I'm with friends, because it's so important to give back to the people that give to you. I was at a restaurant down the street from here, sushi spot we always go to. There was a NBA player there, and my sound engineer was a fan of him. And he finished eating or whatever. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning, because we always go there to eat after the show. And my engineer goes up to him and says, "Hey man, can I get a picture?" I'll never forget. He said, "Nah, man." And he just like walked away. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I was like, perplexed. Mind you, new to fame and all this stuff. So I guess maybe you've been famous for a while, you get annoyed by it. But goddamn, bro, like someone is a supporter saying, "Yo, I love you, man. Can I get a photo?" And you say, "No, it's going to take 2 seconds. What the fuck?" So from that point forward, I vowed like, I will never, ever turn someone away from a photo or not say what's up or whatever, because you don't know like what that person's going through. You don't know if they're on the edge. You don't know if they like, love you, and then now you just lost a supporter. And then I never want people to say, "Oh, I met Myron Gaines in person. He's a fucking dickhead." I want them to say, "I met him in person. He's the same guy on and off camera."
Do you ever get like pissed off that some of your fans are really red pill and they're just, hating on women more than actually, seeing the bigger picture? And obviously a lot of the people that come into you are coming from the OnlyFans episodes.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of red pill rage. We've done episodes on how to get over it. I've always told guys, we don't teach you this information so that you hate women. We teach you this information so you don't hate women for what they'll never be to you. Right? Guys tend to think that, oh, she's gonna love me for me, and it's gonna be an idealistic relationship and the Disney fairy tales and my soulmate and all this other bullshit. The reality is that that's not true. She only likes you as long as you continue to perform and continue to be the man that she fell in love with in the first place. But what guys fuck up is they get the girl, they stop going to the gym, they aren't as assertive. They start letting her lead and be more dominant in the relationship. They become a pussier version of the man that she originally was attracted to. That's why I say you need to keep that attraction up. And a big part of that is having other women. That's another conversation. But you can't regress from who you were before. And that's where so many guys mess up and the attraction gets lost.
A question that I think people might find valuable is, being a federal agent before.
Yeah.
What are some of the like key lessons that you learned along the way from that maybe helped you become a man? And in hindsight, how would you learn them if you weren't a federal agent?
Responsibility. That was the biggest one. Carrying a gun 24/7, being able to like having the ability to kill someone, testifying in court under oath. That's a big one, because they're literally putting you on the stand and asking you questions, and they're bashing you. Agent is it not true that you did XYZ or that you're a liar or whatever? They try to trip you up. And the thing is, if you lie on the stand, that's a charge. 18 USC 1001, false statements, right? So you're being cross-examined, right? I've been to trial before. I've been on the stand hundreds of times. You're dealing with prosecutors, right? Where you could put someone away for the rest of their life in prison. You're presenting cases in front of, I used to do these cases called Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces cases, aka OCDF. I used to do these cases, right? And it's a special thing in the United States that's to combat organized crime, right? It's typically if you look at any big like RICO case or organized crime, it's going to probably be an OCDF case. And in order for you to get funding from the government to do these types of cases, you have to present your case in front of the FBI, in front of IRS, in front of the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, Secret Service, everybody, right? You present your case and then you talk about your targets, blah, 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 and then they approve it and you get congressional funding for your case. Why do I say that? I say all that to say you're in front of sometimes 30 to 50 other agents talking about your case. That's very nerve-wracking, right? You're up with some of the highest brass. So all these things forced me to become a better communicator, be responsible, obviously learn how to tie a tie, right? Learn how to shoot a gun properly, learn proper self-defense, learn how to driving defensively, stuff like that. So it forces you to be a man, that job, because it's so serious and you have so much responsibility. Writing reports, right? You have to write your reports in a certain way. Definitely, that's.
And is there a way to learn these skills outside of being a federal agent? Like in hindsight, when you reflect on them skills, is there something that people at home can be doing to learn these skills or similar ones?
The military is a fantastic way to, force yourself to grow up. It's tough. It's a sucky, 3 to 6 years, depending on what kind of contract you sign. But, if you really don't know where you're going in life and you're kind of like lost, it's a fantastic way to kind of get yourself in a position where you can kind of try different things out, see what MOS you want to do, which is basically like a fancy way of saying a job in the military in the US, and learning a skill set that you can take into the civilian world with you.
Nowadays, everyone wants to become an entrepreneur, but do you think it's a better thing to, go and get a job and then become an entrepreneur, or go into the military like you just mentioned?
I think having a job, especially in whatever entrepreneurial venture you want to do, is fantastic. So you can learn the rudimentary skill set and know how it works. So like, for example, let's say you want to become an electrician, right? You learn how to be an electrician, you understand the ins and outs, you finish your apprenticeship, you're making $100K per year, whatever else. You're like, you know what? I know how to do everything. I can hire someone to do this. And I start my own company. And then bam, you know what to pay them. You know how it works because you've already done it yourself and you know how to do everything. Like, for example, with this podcast, I was doing all my switching and all my audio and all that other stuff myself first before I brought people in, right? So I kind of have an idea. I mean, hell, we even set this stuff up, right? Just me, right? Before we started this thing. So you have to have some rudimentary skill set. And then as you scale and get better, you bring in the real professionals. But I think for guys getting into a corporate job, getting into the government, getting into some type of job where you work for others is a fantastic way to get your feet wet and learn discipline, learn chain of command. That's a big one, like learning chain of command. As an agent, right? I had a supervisory special agent, assistant special agent in charge, SAC, etc. You understand fundamentals of you go to your direct supervisor. You don't go to one above him, right? And that teaches you so many life lessons in real life. If you have an issue with someone, you deal with them directly, not someone else. Right. So you learn so many different life lessons from having a real job, interacting with people, understanding the chain of command, knowing how to talk to people in positions of authority above you or peers, all these things that you might not necessarily even realize that you learn, which is why a lot of like YouTubers that I've met, they've never had a real job before or whatever. And it fucking shows. Like, it's like they just don't have certain mannerisms in place. There's not like a real sense of respect to authority or whatever. And the thing is that, yeah, that's cool if you're an entrepreneur or whatever, but you're going to meet other people and they're going to pick up on this, and they're not going to respect you. They're going to be like, the fuck, like, you're a fucking weirdo, dude. Like, what the hell? Your parents didn't teach you nothing? Like, you didn't have a dad in your life? And they'll just like, they might not say it, but they'll lose respect for you. So I think having a job and like learning the ins and outs of what it's like to wake up early, go work for somebody else, understand there's a chain of command, be on time, get reports done, learn how to deal with peers, but also learn how to deal with superiors and inferiors, how to deal with people that are below you. All of this stuff makes you just a sharper individual and teaches you rudimentary discipline that you probably wouldn't learn as an entrepreneur, or you would fail as an entrepreneur.
You know what's funny is that, I don't know, it's probably not good to bring it up, but I'm going to do it anyway. You remember when First Man said on our podcast, he was like, fresh and fit, I don't think they've ever had a job in their life. And I'm just finding it funny because sitting here now and
Do you know who First Man is?
Nah.
Okay, he's a bald guy, looks very much like Andrew Tate.
Okay.
And on our podcast, he's like, I'm the original Andrew Tate.
Oh, of course.
And he just said something along the lines of like, yeah, I see guys like fresh and fit, and I don't think they've ever had a real job in their life. I think I could wipe both of them clean and stuff like that. And genuinely, at the time, I actually didn't know who you was. I think I'd seen a few clips on TikTok, but I hadn't really twigged it. So like, we sort of didn't really have anything to say on the matter. We were just all right, cool, like whatever you're going on about. Yeah. And we just let it go past. But it's just so funny now that we're actually here, like reflecting on it in that moment when he said that.
Yeah, he just got that so wrong.
Yeah. It might have been before. How long ago was it?
Probably about a year ago or so.
Just after we done the Andrew Tate pod. So because we actually followed it up, we done Andrew Tate, and then straight after that we put this one up, and it's like, you know, and it worked really well because it's like we get all these subscribers from Andrew Tate, and then the next episode it's like, well, this guy thinks he's the real Andrew Tate, so they're all riled up and that, and it worked really well.
No, I guess he didn't do his research, but I mean, I've done, you know, arresting from terrorists to child predators to drug traffickers, cartel people, murderers, you name it. I've dealt with it. You know, every agency I've pretty much worked with in the United States, even international ones, Canadian agencies. The last case I had before I left actually was a case with Turks and Caicos in Canada. It was a national security case. So, you know, people are going to say what they say, but
sounds like quite a taxing job, of course. Is there any sense of PTSD or aftermath that has on you mentally? Being in those tough situations?
All the gray hairs I have is from that job, man. One thing I can remember that really stressed me, I'll never forget, December 11, 2015. I'm in Laredo, Texas. I'm sitting there and I get a phone call. Hey, we caught this Border Patrol car, but there was an illegal alien driving it, and he had like 10 aliens in the back, which is, in the United States, we refer to aliens as undocumented persons. It's the Immigration Nationality Act term for foreign nationals that don't have status. Don't want to offend your viewers. But aliens, what are you talking about? UFO? No. Illegal aliens. It's a American phrase for undocumented people. But either way, right? So on one level, it looks like it's just like a human smuggling situation. But the reality is that this is a huge national security risk. Someone just impersonated a government vehicle, impersonated a federal agent, smuggled illegal aliens into the United States. This can be used to bring in contraband. This can be used to bring in terrorists, etc. And at the time, they had been smuggling suspected terrorists through the southwest border. So this was a huge thing. So obviously I go to the Border Patrol station, I respond, I get calls from the FBI, I get calls from intelligence agencies. Oh, can you give me information on this shit? And I'm like, what the fuck, man? I just got the case. Let me figure it out, right? And I remember that night, dude, I got that call at night. Fuck. I had to drive to the Border Patrol station. That took like an hour. Do all the interviews. You got like 10 witnesses. You got to interview each one, get their story. Then you interview the guy that drove it. He flips, right? Oh, I'll cooperate. All right. Where are we supposed to take these guys? Oh, I was going to take them to San Antonio. What was the address? Oh, here. Cool. Fucking round up the guys. I need like 20 guys. We're going to San Antonio. Fun, go hit a house. Arrest 4 other people, right? Talk. Oh, yeah. You know, I was supposed to put the fake Border Patrol units at this car yard. Oh, okay. We go. Identify that car yard. I'm writing a fucking search warrant right there and then to get to the judge in the morning. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning at this point, right? Get that search warrant. We go search that thing the next day. I didn't get home for like 2 days. And obviously the case was such a high priority, not necessarily because the guy was smuggling illegal aliens. It's the way that they were doing it and what could be done through that organization, especially since we had information at the time that terrorists were being smuggled into the United States. Because obviously after 9/11, them coming in on visas and shit, that ain't happening. You know, they're not approving Mohammed Atta anymore at the fucking, visa embassy. That guy's got to come in through Mexico. So it had national security implications that were very dangerous. So that's why we had to take it. But when you get stuff like that, you're running and gunning. You're not like, oh, I'm going to work 9 to 5 today. I'm fucking tired. Like, nah, I remember for like 2 days. And then the other thing that stressed me out is I had to work with another field office. I was based out of Laredo field office on the southwest border. San Antonio is 2 hours north. There's another whole office up there. So I had to deal with a counterpart up there. He was a lazy piece of shit. He didn't want to do his fucking job. So I had to do everything. I had to write the warrants, etc. And I'm like, dude, this is your area of responsibility, whatever. So I ended up having to do everything. So I said, fuck, I'm not going to let this guy ruin this case. Got into some butting heads and shit. Taught me a lot about myself, controlling anger, not being as pissed off. But I learned so many life lessons that if you want anything done right, you got to do it yourself, because he was a senior agent. He was on retirement road. He didn't give a fuck no more. But that's one case that I could think of off the top of my head that like gave me a lot of my gray hairs. I'll never forget one time I was sitting across from a guy and he was telling me, oh yeah, because he at the time right? And your audience can look this up. He worked for the Zetas, right? He was a Sicario or a hitman for the Los Zetas cartel, which at the time was the most violent Mexican cartel in Mexico. This is like 2015, 2016. And he was a bodyguard for one of the top guys. I think it was like Z40 or Z42, one of the Treviños, right? Which I think they're in prison now. But he told me this story. Never forget this shit. So in Laredo, there was like a war. Well, Laredo, Texas is here. And then right across the bridge is Nuevo Laredo, okay, in Mexico. And there was a war at the time between the Mexican Marines and the cartels. The police can't do shit. It's literally the military that has to fight these guys because they have automatic weapons, all this shit. So this Sicario's job was whenever the boss was traveling around in their motorcade of armored cars or whatever, right? And the Marines will start firing on them. His job was to divert their attention away from his boss so he could escape, and he'd get out and he'd start doing cover fire. And he said he would kill Mexican Marines and he would get a bonus for every finger he brought back to the boss to identify how many he killed. He would get a bonus per person. So, and he did this for years, killed hundreds of them. And the way, it wasn't him even murdering them. It was the way how cold-hearted he was and how he just spoke about it as like matter of fact. Like, yeah, I'd kill him. And then, I'd go over to the body. I'd cut the finger off and I'd bring it to the boss and he'd give me a bonus.
Dehumanizing them, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what you had to do. A lot of times when I talk with these criminals, and this is very visible in serial killers too, they have to dehumanize the victim for them to actually do it. Right. Guys like Ted Bundy, the Night Stalker, etc. If you listen to them talk about their victims, a lot of times they have to dehumanize them and look at them as like an object for them to actually be able to do it. But if they actually like know the individual, it's way harder. That's why Ted Bundy never killed his long-term girlfriend. He murdered random chicks that looked kind of like her, but he never. Once they build a bond, it's a lot harder for them to do it. But yeah, this guy, cold-blooded, man, cutting off fingers and shit to get a bonus.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Nah. No, I mean, there's been times where I definitely got close to getting in shootouts. I remember like one of my first raids. We got information that this guy was going to kidnap this dude and bring him across the border to be tortured because he had lost like 1,000 pounds of weed, and that's very common in Mexico. So like, if you're a drug trafficker and you bring drugs in and you like lose it or they suspect that you stole it from them, there's going to be a green light on you on the Mike side and the Mexican side. So this guy that we were looking for got hired to come across, find a dude, kidnap him, bring him back to Mexico so he could be tortured because he lost like 1,000 pounds of weed, which has like a street value of like at the time like $500,000, right? So we get information. We're like tapping his phone and shit to figure out where the fuck he's at because this is an emergency because we know who the victim is. So I had an informant at the time. The informant called him. They're hanging out talking or whatever, and we fucking went and hit the house or whatever. And he went he made like sudden movements like this. And I remember telling him in like Spanish, like, manos arriba, put your fucking hands up, or else I'm going to shoot your dumb ass. And luckily, he kind of saw what was going on because I ran at him with the M4, and a couple other guys were to the side of me. So he kind of saw that, okay, this is the L for me. So he got down on the ground. Another time, never forget this one either, we arrested a Border Patrol agent that was trying to meet up with a child. That was crazy. When we arrested another Fed, he was talking with an undercover agent trying to have sex with like a 14-year-old. And we did it in this like rinky-dink town in Texas. And I remember I was the team leader because at the time I had a big drug case out of that town. So I knew the area like the back of my hand. No one else knew it though because no one fucking drives there. So we're at the gas station and he's coming out with like condoms and fucking, and this is all going to be evidence, by the way, with like condoms and lube and all this other shit, right? Because we wanted him to go in the store, get the shit, lollipops, whatever, because that's going to be evidence. So he goes in, he comes out. When he comes out, I remember all our cars come in and swarm him at the gas station. And I remember getting out. I had my vest on. And I said, Federal agent, put your fucking hands up. Put your hands up. And I'm coming from his side, right? So I'm the guy. I'm coming from like behind him over here, right? And I knew he was right-handed because when we briefed, I remember asking this question: what hand does he shoot with? Because he was armed. He had a service weapon with him. They're like, he's right-handed, right? So I'm like, oh shit, because they had all the records, right? So he goes like this. He had a jacket on. It was raining that day. He goes like this, and I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, and I remember screaming at him, don't fucking do it. I'll shoot you. Don't fucking do it. And he goes like this. He sees me. He sees the vest, and you can see him kind of like, because he's in shock. What the fuck's going on? And then my partner, my supervisor at the time, still friend to this day, fucking grabs him from the back and throws him on the floor. I was like, thank God. So
if that didn't happen, do you think you would have hesitated or not?
He would have or me?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. If he grabbed the gun, I would have shot him. I had it lined up right on his head. I had it lined up. I had my Glock. I'll never forget my Glock 17. It was right there on his fucking head, and I was ready.
Is there any sort of thing that means that like you can't shoot them in the head? So, for example, are you not supposed to use like force first that isn't an insta kill?
It's always what they say is you shoot to neutralize a threat. They teach you to shoot center mass because that's a lot of vital organs there. And it's the easiest part to hit. But I was aiming for the head because I was like, what if he has body armor on? So yeah, but yeah, when he did that, because he had a jacket on, he went like that, and I saw the gun, and his hand was like pretty much on it. I was like, man, if he unholsters that thing, I'm fucking popping him. But luckily, my supervisor just fucking grabbed his ass and threw him on the floor.
So in that moment, what's going through your head? Are you nervous that you're going to have to do this, or are you just in a zen moment and just going through the motions? You've obviously practiced for this. This moment.
It was scary, dude, because I was the team leader on that one. Because where we did the arrest was a rural area that no one knew. So like I told everyone where to stage their cars. I told everyone when we were going to do it, how we were going to do it, etc. So like I felt responsible for everyone there if anything happened. So, and I'm 26 at the time, fucking kid basically, right? And I got like I remember Texas State Patrol was there. We had obviously HSI Homeland there. I had the Office of Inspector General was there, because obviously it was a corrupt employee. A lot of people were there. I even had DEA out there to help as well because I had a very good relationship with them at the time. So yeah, it was scary. If it fucked up, like it would have been bad. But yeah, it was all the responsibility was on me. I wrote the operation plan. I briefed it. I told them where everyone's going to be. So whenever you have that and you're the team leader, another thing that taught me to man up, right? Doing these briefings, right? Where you're literally like staging everything out. He's going to come out here. We're going to do it at this time, etc. Blah, blah, blah. He's going to make the call. So yeah.
Let's say a situation did go south. Let's take a hypothetical situation.
Sure.
Someone's got a gun to your head and you're allowed to say one last message to an individual.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say and who do you say it to?
I'll tell my parents you did a good job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just love how you're just looking at him directly with your sunglasses on.
Yeah. I'll tell them you did a good job.
So what legacy do you want to leave on the world?
Guys be the best version of themselves, not be losers, not be fat, because we all know what it's like to be, how being fat is unacceptable. And I want guys to be in a position where they live on their terms versus someone else's terms, especially a woman's. A lot of guys live on, oh, happy wife, happy life. No, happy king, happy kingdom. And I want them to have that kingdom.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, man, for having me.
Where can people find you?
Fresh and Fit, man. You guys can find us, right? We're live Monday, Wednesday, Friday with our regular show and then our nighttime show. Fed Reacts, if you guys like the law enforcement stuff. I talk about some of these stories. I'll probably do a podcast on that one story I told you. I summarized it to, for the brevity of the show. But yeah, Fed Reacts for that. And then, yeah, just check us out over there, man.
Awesome. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, make sure to smash that thumbs up button and we will see you next Wednesday with a brand new one. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from all of us.
Bye.